Good morning. Greetings to you all on this 23rd day of July of the Anno Domini 2024, the year of our Lord. It's good to be back with you, and we are continuing today the series that we started yesterday about what will happen. And of course, this is a hypothetical world. Everything that we talk about every day, again, I always say that I believe it is a blessing that God did not give us humans the power to see the future. The Lord gave us a lot of power as humans, as people created in his image, in his likeness. We have a lot of God's attributes in ourselves. We have a lot that he shared with us about his own nature. But this is not one of them. To see the future, to foresee the future, to predict correctly what is coming, we do not have. So all that remains to us is to guess, to come up with hypotheses, and to try to analyze the present based on the past in order to try to create a more secure and safer pathway toward the future. And this is pretty much what we're doing this week on the podcast. As I mentioned several times yesterday, this is not I'm not trying to read the future here. I am just bringing one perspective that I believe aligns more to the way I see the world. It aligns more to the way that I understand the world about around me. And it's also because I align myself with a couple of writers, a couple of philosophers, thinkers, economists, historians, people that have been dedicating many hours of their day and a lot of study, a lot of effort, intellectual effort to try to analyze what's going on right now in order to give us at least a glimpse or a perspective or a possibility of what's coming in our world. In the last 24 hours, we saw Joe Biden just completely quitting the presidential seat and supporting Kamala Harris. And perhaps before a long time, it's going to be quick that she is going to be the 47th president of the United States of America. I just shared that with our group this morning. If Trump wins, he's going to be 45 and 48, 45th and 48th president of the United States of America, not anymore 45, 47. And this is one of the reasons behind Trump's complaint on Truth Social about the money and the time wasted by the Republican Party to build the entire platform based on 45, 47, right? So they are going now they are forced to redo everything, a lot at least, in terms of merchandise, in terms of products. It's not 45, 47 anymore. If Kamala Harris is, and it's just a matter of when now, she is installed as the 47th president. If Trump wins, he is going to be 45, 48, which changes absolutely everything about the plans and the prospects of the Republican Party and everything that they had already planned. So with that, let me bring here our topic for today, which is the same from yesterday. What happens if Donald Trump wins another term? So we know by now that Kamala Harris has been polling at least 10, 12 points below Trump, meaning that she's polling below Joe Biden was compared to Trump, and Trump was already overpolling Biden. So it means that she's even worse. And of course, the Democrat Party is now sending out a message of unity for the first time in the past 2 months, 3 months, but especially after the debate right? Everybody was, the party was cracking, and it was an absolute earthquake that was shaking everything inside of the party. And now they seem to be coming back to a position of unity around Kamala Harris. She has already received the numbers of the number of delegates that she needed to become the appointee or the nominee of the party, Democrat Party, to be facing Donald Trump on November the 5th. But again, everything is so unstable. She will need at least 3 to 4 weeks to consolidate her base. But we know that she cannot help herself, right? She is not a strong candidate. She's very weak, politically speaking, policy speaking. So the unity here will be pretty much tested between now and, let's say, 3 and 4 weeks. And if in 4 weeks she does not provide the results that they need, they will pretty much sure that they're going to have an open convention and somebody else is coming and taking her place. They are very pragmatic about that. Everything for them is the party, not the person, not the individual. This is why they got rid of Joe Biden the way they did, and they will get rid of her if she does not respond necessarily the way they are expecting her to. So, but let us assume, as we started talking about yesterday, that, well, none of those shenanigans is going to happen, is going to be effective. And let us just keep in mind that Trump is going to be the winner on November the 5th, which is what I have been counting on. This is how I am looking at things right now. And we have data. It's not just a wild guess. We have data, and we have the world, we have reality in front of us. And with 2 neurons, we can understand that if things are played out the way they should, and of course, everybody's waiting for some type of, again, to use the word shenanigan, and some type of machinery working behind the curtains to bring out votes from illegal immigrants this time. If it is not enough to cover or to surpass the amount of votes that Trump is going to receive, probably he is going to be the president on November the 5th. So I am going to keep working with that mindset and that conclusion until my eyes see something that would prove me wrong or give me a different option to think about. So let us go back to that possibility. What happens if Donald Trump wins another term? And most importantly, if he wins on November the 5th, where is the United States of America, or where are the United States of America going from them? And I told you that I would be basing my contents this week on a couple of books that are aligned with this book, The End of the World is Just a Beginning, by Peter Zion, mapping the collapse of globalization. And his mindset here, his conclusion is that the end of globalization is a certain goal, or is a certain fate right now, because of the movement he sees America doing, not only with Trump, but also with Joe Biden, of isolating itself as a nation from the global powers and the global trade in the world. So that is the rationale that this guy has. And again, a couple of others that have been following the same rationale. America has been detaching itself. The US dollar has been detached by other countries in their international trades, as we mentioned yesterday. So that is what is behind his understanding of when he says the end of the world, he's talking about the end of globalization, which means, according to his mindset here, his mentality and his analysis, that this is going to show and to point out to the end of the American empire. And he is going to bring us to the beginning of this story, when he believes America became the global empire. It was not in 1776. It was not in 1789 when the Constitution was ratified. It was not on World War I, but it was on World War II, when the United States, and Reagan was he spearheaded that. He ended what we call the Cold War, right? So remember that phrase, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down those walls that was in Berlin, and those walls that separated West Berlin and East Berlin, Communist Germany, and capitalist Germany. So that happens, and the wall comes down in 1989. And all of a sudden, there is a superpower. Again, this movement started right after 1945, when the war was officially opened, and it extended and was consolidated with Reagan when he shakes the hand of Mr. Gorbachev, and now the Cold War is ended. So this is the time frame that Peter Zeihan has been covering: 1945, passing through 1989, and then until present day. So we're talking about 70-ish years. That is the span of time that his book covers, because he says in this time frame, what happened in the world was that America has become, well, he is not going to say that America has become the police of the world. He's going to be saying something else. But again, as you see on this map, America has today 742 military bases across the globe in 82 countries. But America has also bilateral military agreements with 179 countries of the world. America has right now 227,000 deployed personnel across the globe. But here at home, America has 2.6 million stationed militaries in our nation. So you see that America is pretty much scattered, spread across the globe. And that is the imperial America that we talk about. There are many people right now writing books, and I showed you some of those books before, writing books about the end of that process, the end of the empire, the American empire. The American empire was the only empire in the world history that was able to really stretch its arms and grow its branches throughout the entirety of the planet. Rome did not achieve that. Babylon did not achieve that. Medo-Persia, Assyria, none of the empires that came before us, the Greek Empire, they were not able to do that. Only in that portion of Europe, Asia Minor, parts of Middle Eastern areas today. So that was the concentration of those empires that Daniel 7 talks about, that Daniel 2 talks about. But America was the only empire in the world that was able to stretch its arms everywhere, as you see on the map. Not only putting military bases there, but economically speaking, right? The US dollar reigns still today. It dominates the entirety of the globe and the international trade, as we saw yesterday. So this, according to Peter Zeihan, is what really consolidated what is called the American empire. But for him, there is something more important than military bases. His focus is to analyze what he calls America is a coast guard of the world. Because with the massive surveillance of American ships, surveillance of the global seas and oceans, what America accomplished right after the Cold War in order to force, so to speak, quote unquote, to force nations to trade freely, not only with America, but with other nations. And in that way, isolating the Soviet Union. That was the way that America back then was able to isolate and even to neutralize the power of the Soviet Union back then. They achieved a very powerful position at the global table. And what America said to its partners or potential allies back then was, okay, we're going to keep you safe by keeping your economy safe as you trade between your economy and other economies of the world, including ours. We are going to protect your trade. We are going to protect your ships. We are going to protect your goods. We're going to protect your transportation of goods throughout the entirety of the world. And we will do that to the point that you comply with these new rules. And the rule number one is do not make any trade with the Soviet Union. Isolate them. So this is the heart of the book, Peter Zeihan's book. And he says that America not only has this super powerful military across the globe, but the ship, the Navy is, the fleet of ships that America has today. Right now, China has already surpassed the amount of ships. But in terms of war plans for the seas of the world, America is still number one. And this is why China has been avoiding, for example, to invade Taiwan, because of, the level of conflict would come to a point that has never seen before. So Peter Zeihan is focusing his entire book, on the fact that now, after 70 years, when we had the best time in the world, according to what he says, these are his words, we have had the best economic prosperity, the highest amount of prosperity that we could ever achieve in history. We achieved it between 1945, end of the Second World War, going through the Cold War, and today, he says, we never will achieve that level of prosperity again, because America has started in the past and is now and will in the foreseeable future retreating from the global scenario. So when you hear Trump say America first, make America great again, that is the message to the allies in the world. America is not going to be focusing so much on international affairs anymore. America is going to bring her eyes and her attention back to herself. This is what America first means. This is exactly what make America great again means. It doesn't mean that America will never do business with other countries anymore, but it means that the manufacturing, for example, of goods is going to return to America. The transportation of goods is going to be pretty much focused on supplying American states and not countries of the world. It means that the money that has been going for 70 years to countries of the world, again, billions of dollars, right? Only to Ukraine, we are reaching now $203 billion going only to one country, Ukraine, for it to defend itself. Trump has already said, I'm ending this conversation, I'm ending this war on day one as soon as I come back to the White House. So that is the topic that we're going to be discussing this week, about what happens if Trump goes back to the White House. My focus is not so much on the spiritual aspects of this, or even in the foreign affairs aspect of this, but what this will mean to us as a national uh, community, as a country, as a territorial land, what is this going to bring to us in terms of changes? What are the transformations that we will have to undergo in order to rebuild manufacturing companies, in order to rebuild the military locally? Is Trump going to start bringing more troops from abroad, people that are deployed back to the United States? Well, he said that very clearly when he was still in office about Afghanistan, and he was going to do that, and then he was not able to do that, and then Biden did that in the most catastrophic way possible. But this is a possibility that is on the table right now, and this is what reality informs us now. This is what Trump is going to do if he goes back to the White House. So with that, I would like just to point out what this terminology that we speak a lot about, globalization. What is the definition of globalization? According to the Investopedia website, globalization is the spread of the flow of financial products, goods, technology, information, and jobs across national borders and cultures. This is exactly what Peter Zion is saying that is going to end. It's ending. And he gives even a deadline for that. And the deadline is the end of the 20th. The deadline is the end of this decade. He says, and he is corroborated by other authors, other thinkers, they are saying that the decade of 1930s, not 1930s, 2030s, sorry about this lapse, 2030s will be the decade of nationalism and the end, the burial site or grave of globalization. Because America is retreating, if China retreated, it would not be an end to globalization. If Russia retreated, it would not be the end of globalization. It would end much later. It would end one day, but much, much later. But because of what America means in the global scenario, and because of the massive influence of the US dollar across the planet, this is supposed to end. Globalization is supposed to end, according to Peter Zion. And I agree. I tend to agree with him. Because again, this is what my intellectual analysis concludes. I believe that this is where we're heading, especially if Trump comes back to the White House. This is going to intensify. And then if Trump comes in and then he leaves and allows J.D. Vance to go 4 more years, and then 4 more years, 8 more years, in 12 years, if there is a Republican president thinking this way, turning their eyes to America first, make America great again for 12 years, globalization is pretty much dead. It does not mean dead in the sense that countries will not make trade deals with each other. It's going to be a forever thing. But in terms of the rule and reign of globalized policies that instruct countries not to look at themselves, meaning to break the shape and the mode of nationalism, because when you say nationalism today, it looks like a heresy, right? You cannot even say that name. You cannot even say that word. You cannot even mention that terminology because somehow that is xenophobic or racist or whatever. The enchantment, the spell is being broken right as we speak. So with all of that, I would like tomorrow to bring to your attention the specifics about what Peter Zion talks here in the book. And his focus in the book is going to be on a 2-axis mindset. Number one is demographics, the composition of countries, the people, age groups, genders, especially which countries have high fertility rate and low fertility rate. So this is number one, the focus of his analysis, demographics. And the second one is the second or the other side of his coin to write the book is geography. And this is a very big thing for him because he says that geography is going to save the United States of America again, as it did in 1776. And he's going to explain why. So demography or demographics and geography, these are the two axes that we're going to be analyzing. I'm going to be bringing his decisions and conclusions and his thoughts to your attention tomorrow, on Thursday, and on Friday. And I hope that this makes sense to you. And again, if you don't agree with that, it's fine. Let me know. Send me a text or an email. Those who know me, and you know that this podcast is aimed at you here in the local level. So many of you out there know me by now. Just let me know what your thoughts are. And I hope to see you here tomorrow for the specifics and a dive into Peter Zion's book, The End of the World is Just a Beginning, when he's talking about the end of globalization. So may the Lord bless you, and I hope to see you here tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.